And I think you can't convince someone that you're a woman if you're talking to them like a man does.
Hey everyone, I caught myself an amazing one today. You're going to love this. So sit down, get your coffee or whatever you want to drink, and let's get into this. So before I do that, like, subscribe, comment, push this out to people who need to see it. You guys are really it's all about you guys making my channel grow, and it's happening, and I get these amazing guests because of you. So with that, I have Brianna Wu. That's how I pronounce your name, right?
That's it, Brianna. You can call me Bri because we're friends.
Oh, I love Bri anyway. It's very beautiful. Not that Brianna isn't, but tell everyone out there who might not know who you are.
Oh my goodness. I'm a political operative for the Democratic Party. I think most people know me for the GamerGate incident in the video game industry like a decade ago. So if you enjoy the current political climate of hunting down your political enemies and going through everything they've ever said to find stuff to attack them with and then sending them in threats, that all started with me. So very exciting. Wow. It was great.
Wow. Yeah, you're amazing. I just really think you're so awesome. And that, Brianna's in the fight with us, you guys out there.
Yeah.
So, and my channel, I really try to, I think that I have a very nuanced, I'm a Democrat, but I don't feel proud of it now. But that being said, I really do encourage us as Republicans and Democrats to get together and have these conversations, which 100%. You do too. And it's the way, to me, that politics is supposed to be, as well as the way our country is supposed to be. And I think we've really gone so far, like, if you're not us, then you're not. And it's the same in the trans space. I would like to know a little bit about your background first, and tell us about you and
your
transition.
So I transitioned, my God, it was 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
So you're very well known to us back then. We can get into that. But I had kind of the old school case. If you asked a clinician to say, give me kind of the textbook definition of a transsexual, it would be me. I knew I really, really, really wanted to be a girl very early on, very feminine, got punished for it, grew up in Mississippi, didn't really do very well developmentally because my parents punished me every time I acted like myself. A lot of litigations, drug addiction, got my stuff together in my 20s and transitioned, and life just really got back on course from there. Today I'm doing well financially. I'm an industry leader. I've been married to a man for 16 years. And I think what brings us here today, Buck, is like you, I have some extreme concerns about the way that the trans community is fighting. That's something at the beginning that Republicans and Democrats should talk to each other. That used to be the way we got trans rights, was talking to the right like they were partners, assuaging their fears, talking to them with respect. It was not going behind their back and, doing things with their children, like socially transitioning them at school and not telling them. So the last thing I'll say is, I don't agree with you on everything. And I hope we can, explore
I love that
respectfully. About you. And today it really is like you're my friend, and we don't have to agree on everything.
Nope.
Right?
Nope. It's literally how I am with my wife. We don't agree. We're very politically kind of like that. She's way more liberal than me.
Really?
I would say that my age has created, and I do believe age, sometimes you start to become a little bit different, and maybe your thought process and how you, and I'm a dad, and I have, I'm like a total family guy. But that being said, that I love that you said that, because those are my true friends. My true friends can disagree with me, and we can still love each other. And that doesn't mean that we have to hate each other. It means I disagree.
Of course not.
You like chocolate, I like vanilla. It's all good. Like, it's not, one's not better than the other. It's a different way of seeing things, I think.
I think you and I have gone through an experience that it used to be very few people went through. I think it's really hard for two people to draw the same conclusion from that. And I guess one of the questions I just wanted to ask you flat out today is, judging from your Twitter comments, it may I'm misinterpreting this, tell me if I am,
Sure.
but I kind of get the sense sometimes that you're just kind of tired of trans women and the abuse that we can hurl at people online. I don't think I do that to you. I hope I don't.
Nope.
But I kind of get the sense that trust has been broken, if that makes sense.
Well, that's a great question, and I can see that it looks like that from afar, and I'll tell you why it looks like that. Because you are not the type of trans woman that I am attacking, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
You are not. I consider you a transsexual, and I consider the newer trans women who, if you notice, I get most of my attacks are coming from trans women, and so it hurts me that to me, I'm going to call you real, because I don't believe that they're actually like you at all, are disgusting and misogynistic and hateful and mean. And if you don't call them a woman, they get so mad. And so I really want you to know that I'm not necessarily attacking a person like yourself.
I've never felt that way at all, Buck. I think what I'm saying is I think this is an important thing for us to explore, because we do come from a different generation.
That's right.
And I don't know what it was like for you when I was coming out, but I did this in Mississippi. I'm going to break some news today. I was actually the first person to ever transition at Ole Miss, which was really difficult, let me tell you. And the way I worked with those conservatives was I really tried to get them to see my humanity as a person. And I tried to, it was hard getting misgendered, but, flaming off and screaming at them just wouldn't have gotten me what I needed. Right. And I think you and I have seen a real generational shift where it's less about coexistence and it's more about conquering people. Yes. Does that make sense to you, or does that match your experience?
Nope. I'm totally in alignment. That's what it feels like to me. It doesn't feel like they want to coexist. You always wanted to coexist with women. That's why the majority of my friend base was trans women. They still are. I have a huge friendship with trans women because they're like you. They're not the ones who are attacking women. And it hurts me also as a female, because I'm a female. And that being said, I lived half my life, honestly. I'm 62 now, half as a woman and half as a man. And it hurts me to watch the way some of these trans women talk to women. And how do you expect, what you said is so profound. The reason why I think you are, because you realize, okay, people are not going to definitely accept me here, especially in Mississippi. Right. You got to find that sort of middle ground space.
You can't tell them you're a woman. You have to show them you're a woman.
Brilliant.
And, part of that is a deportment and a social control. And, when I was transitioning, one of the first things I did was I started reading books on how women communication works. And, there's a lot of stuff that it feels very natural to me, like coming to agreement, turn taking, giving people space to have their own opinion. And I can't help but look at like the technical aspects of women communication and note respectfully that a lot of my sisters don't seem to employ this stuff. And I think you can't convince someone that you're a woman if you're talking to them like a man does, in my view.
I mean, you just basically said it. I don't understand this. You're going to say I'm a trans woman, or else you're going to say I'm a woman, or you're never going to talk to me again. I'm like, that is coercion. And so what if the person doesn't really believe you're a woman, but they're just saying it? Like, I don't want somebody.
I don't care. I don't
exactly. Care. Like, what?
The standard I hold myself to, and I'd love to know if this is how you feel. So I can't control how people feel about me, like on a philosophical level. It's just not something I can control. As best as I can tell, hand to God, when I'm out there living my life, I get called she, her, don't get misgendered, all that kind of stuff. As best as I can tell, if people know that I'm trans, they still talk to me like I'm a woman, which is 100%. That's all I need. I don't need to fight some philosophical battle. I'm literally just trying to go about my day. And I think it's almost a neurosis that it's about an unwellness or an unconfidence in yourself that people are expressing by trying to control people's thoughts, if that makes sense to you.
Well, it does, and that's why I think people have so much respect for you, because first off, you look like a woman, so you're actually making the effort, which is what I always say. We as transsexual people have to come to the table in a different way.
100%.
Yeah, I don't expect anybody to make it comfortable for me. I do not. I make it comfortable for myself and for them. And as far as I know, remember, I transitioned 32 years ago, and I really did navigate that space and understand and why the world calls me he. People only call me she now because there's a war bullshit going on. But those people I don't take seriously, right? But what I was going to say is, you make the effort, you look it, you sound it, you walk it. There's no way anybody, even when they find out you're trans, they don't care, because you've made. And to me, it's respect. You're very respectful towards the space, if that makes sense.
I try to be, but this is what I don't understand, is why would you not want to do this? You posted a video the other day of someone claiming to be a trans woman, and they had a beard. And I'm going to say it respectfully, and I'm not going to say they're not valid, but I will say I don't understand. Because when I started getting, secondary male, effects, it was really traumatic for me, Buck. I'm sure it was traumatic for you when you were growing breasts or started, getting a period. Like, I don't understand, like, I really don't, how you could have those parts and not want to minimize them as much as you can. And I understand, like, there's a difficult genetic roll of the die, and FFS is expensive. Like, I have compassion for that. But shaving, that seems like a really obvious thing to me. I mean, am I crazy about that?
No, come on. I've been around you women. I've been around you women for a long time, and I know exactly. They would never. I have hundreds of trans women friends would never step. So I'm sorry, but I got to call them out. I've got to call them out, because I know dysphoria. Okay, I know dysphoria from this side and your side. I've been around it for a long time. There is no actual. That's why. Look, I don't care. Be what you want to be. I'm the same. Respect your space, but then don't encroach on other people's spaces, being the women's space as well as the actual transsexual people who really do make an effort to sort of, we try to look male and female enough so that it eases our dysphoria. And it also, if you notice, it eases the world's way they look at us. Those people to me are not trans. They're gender, queer, non-binary, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But why don't we have that category over there and stop coming over here? And then I swear to God, if we did that, you could see a lot of this stuff not be so insane.
I think these people are very young, and they don't understand just how much better it's gotten. I'm old enough to have transitioned under the Benjamins before the W path even existed. And, I transitioned, my first diagnosis was with the DSM-3, and then later the DSM-4. You look at the DSM today, and the standards are so low for gender dysphoria. It seems like clinical malpractice. You don't have to even follow Benjamins anymore. You can just go into a clinic and say, I want this. And, this is a spicy opinion, but Buck, we're both trans, and I think if we can't tell the truth to each other, who can we say this to? I have been around the space long enough to know there are some people that are fetishistic cross-dressers.
Thank you.
And I think they have a fantasy about a very sexualized idea of womanhood. And I think there is no system to stop them from getting on hormones nowadays. And I personally believe they're going to Planned Parenthood or whatever, and they're enacting a fantasy. And I think they're going to go on a journey where they're going to learn there's nothing feminine inside of them. And this is why they do things like they don't take anti-androgens, because they enjoy having penises. And I think this is a formula for you and I. I think our medical condition has been colonized, if that makes sense to you. Like, I think they're appropriating it. And that's not a concept I talk about a lot because it's weird, but I think it's the appropriate language.
Yeah, it is. No, you say everything there. We are in 100% alignment. My background comes from the sexual space. My background comes from sex work. My background comes from pornography. My background comes from married to a very famous dominatrix, that I was around all of that. Those people used to come to the dungeon, and they were cross-dressers. That's why my eyes, I know who you are. I see you. Don't try it. You're not trans. The thing that's so interesting to me is because hundreds of those dudes would come to our dungeon and do exactly what they're doing now in the public. And I'm like, wait a minute here.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy.
But can I share a story? This is a little embarrassing. You were actually the only trans man I've ever seen naked. So it was oh my goodness. It was, I don't know when your career really took off, but my friend was like, hey, you want to see what testosterone can do? And I'm like, sure. And it's a picture of you doing your thing. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is someone that really enjoys being a man. Good for him. I'm glad he's having fun. That seems awful. So.
People will say to me, well, you don't have dysphoria if you can I said, if I could have gotten the penis surgery, I always tell people I would have done it in 2 seconds. I would have,
sure.
I still would do it if that was the case.
Course.
It doesn't exist. You can't do it. So why am I going to suffer for my own for my own sexual space, which I love being sexual and I love it. It feels great and it's fun. Why should I? So I really worked on sort of creating a space that I wouldn't have dysphoria around the bottom part of myself, and it's really changed me. I'll tell you, it made me walk the world with my head high. I know it's and pornography, it's over there. I haven't done it for 20 years, whatever. At the time that I did it, it was very important to me, and it really did empower me, and it really helped a lot of trans men with their bottom dysphoria, where I really showed you didn't have to get that penis surgery, and you could really function as a man, right? Whatever that means, and that. But people still try to throw that pornography thing at me. It's your fault that everyone's. I'm like, wow, really?
No,
It's ridiculous.
It was very educational back in the day. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I hope I can just say I'm not into that kind of stuff.
No,
personally,
it's fine.
No, it was really. I think you opened up people's minds. And, when I think about like my own husband who's cis, he doesn't don't get me wrong, I love his penis, but he doesn't, that's not what I think defines him as a man. It's an emotional centeredness. It's a maturity. It's a kind of masculine way of nurturing the world. That's what I think makes you a man.
Beautiful.
In my view, at least.
Yeah, beautiful. But the thing is, in this whole trans conversation, men aren't being attacked. Men aren't being, you don't see trans men going and saying, we're men, get out of our way, we're gonna, take over, we are men. You just see a real big difference, and why I call it a massage. And it really bothers me that people like you are stuck in that space with those people, because you shouldn't be. You are not like them, and, you're so great. You just really bring a great energy to what we need. We need more trans women like you standing up and saying, hey, wait a minute here, because I think you actually, I bet you have a large female fan base. I can't imagine that they dislike you.
I do. Yeah.
No way. Yeah.
I mean, but part of this, Buck, is, I don't want to be mean to my sisters, because I understand it's difficult to learn these things, but I got to give you some tough love. And that is, if the safety of cis women isn't important to you, you haven't learned something really fundamental about being female. The way these conversations go is the group is important, getting along is important.
Yes.
And it is so important to me that other people feel safe and comfortable around me. And it's just this entitlement. I don't have another word for it, but male coded. I do want to push back really quickly on something you said, though, that you don't think trans men are the center of this. And we may disagree on this, but we agree that not all these trans women are really transsexual women in the old school sense. I don't think a lot of these young biological girls that think transitioning is going to solve all their problems at 14, I don't think they're trans men.
No, neither do
And
I.
maybe I'm wrong about
No,
that.
you are one.
Yeah.
We're in
Yeah.
alignment. It's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting more. Of course, I'm sort of fighting for women's rights, if that makes sense. But my eyes are on the kids. These kids are not trans. They are not. I say it all the time. That no, they
Yeah.
are not trans. These are kids who are dealing with stuff. There might be one or two, maybe, or whatever. That I don't believe in trans kids. I wasn't a trans kid. I was just a kid.
Really? You
No, I do
weren't?
not consider myself a trans kid
I
in
guess the
any.
pathology is so different for, FTMs, though.
Of course, that's the other thing I
Yeah.
want people to see. We are going to have different ways of being. We were socialized differently. We come to things differently. Our transitions are differently. We're not the same. Just because we're trans doesn't mean that we have the same experience, and that's really important. I do not believe I was a trans kid. I do believe I was a tomboy, and I believe that I wanted to be a boy, whatever that meant. But I didn't have a bad childhood. Brianna, I had an awesome childhood. I really did. I had fun. I was because I think it's different for. I'm going to say, I hope it's not disrespectful, but
No,
for
no, no.
young males or young boys than it is for young girls. I think
Sure.
the struggles are different and the things are, and feminine boys get nailed.
Oh,
Masculine
so
girls
bad.
don't.
That's right.
Yeah.
Even back then. Even
Nope.
back then. I hear what you're saying, and I do agree with it. I think something that's really under discussed here is our cohorts politically just get merged together, and they're not
Yes.
the same. The
No.
pathology is not the same. The way it progresses is not the same.
That's right.
And frankly, testosterone is such a powerful drug that if someone takes this at 18, I don't think it's going to have that much of a difference versus them taking it at 14. Right. So I almost kind of wish, I'm not a doctor. I want to clarify that.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that since the female to male cohort is the vast bulk of the detransitioners,
Yes.
I almost wish we could take them out of the conversation, because what is really important to me is I do think the male to female population there, estrogen it's not a cure-all in the same way, and it does do permanent damage to your body.
Yeah.
And I completely understand we do not have a clinical protocol that can identify the children like me
Right.
from the boys that are just going to end up being feminine homosexuals, because we do look
Yes.
very similar. But Buck, I'm just being completely serious when I say
Yeah.
I barely survived, friend. I barely survived.
See the difference?
Yeah.
See the difference? And I know why. Because first off, societal. Okay, I think it is, like I just said, I do believe it's harder for a feminine, young, and I'm going to say it no disrespect to you,
No,
but
no, it's fine.
male
Well,
to deal with things than it is for a masculine butch girl. And then what you
course.
say is really, we need to hear what's really important. The majority of the transitioning young people are female to male. And that is something we also, now that being said, I'm totally against puberty blockers, but that also being said, you as a transitioned adult male to female have a lot more, let's say, work to have to do to get to that female space, where somebody like myself at 30 who went through puberty, lived 30 years life as a woman, just has to grow a mustache and the only surgery, no, let's be real here.
I know.
The only surgery I have is my breasts. That's it.
Wow.
That's it.
Yeah, I've
Everything
had
else.
more than that. I will.
Every
cop to
trans
that.
woman will tell you that they have to do. So in that context, I understand the desire to put puberty blockers in a young person of male to female, but we're not doing that. The majority of puberty blockers are being put into female
That's
to
right.
male.
That's right. Yeah, I just got to be honest with you. I understand this is a politically unpopular opinion on my own side. I think the detransition numbers, as best as I can tell, are so high for that.
Horrible.
And I just don't see the same benefit from early intervention. And
Thank
I
you.
mean, Buck, you tell me. I envy, in a weird way, like you got to go through this. But if I imagine what my close cis girlfriends have told me a puberty is like when you're 14,
Right.
is your body is changing, it's awkward, you start getting your period, you're getting sexualized by creepy dudes. I would imagine the Instagram age, you're comparing yourself to impossible beauty standards,
Yep.
you know, and like, you know, even for me, I enjoy hair and makeup stuff, but it's a pain sometimes, right? I certainly don't feel like I look like Barbie. And you're trying to compare yourself to that. And it's really easy for me to imagine how a young cis girl that just doesn't identify with like the ultimate stereotype of Barbie
Yeah.
would start having questions like, wouldn't my life be so much easier if I was a man? Does
Sure.
that make sense to you?
Oh my God, that's what's happening. It's literally what's happening. So, of
Yeah.
course, these kids, it is horrifying to go through puberty. I was a little bit of a late bloomer in puberty.
Yeah.
I think girls go through puberty, like sometimes they start 12, 13. I didn't start until 15 because I was a runner and I had no body fat and things were. But when it did happen, here's where I got my period in the middle of the street playing football with all the dudes because that's what I did. And I felt something wet in my underwear. I'm like, did I just pee myself? And I didn't even know what a period was because my mom treated me like a boy on some level. And she's like, oh, you're menstruating. And back in the day, they had these gigantic Kotex that were like bricks. And you had a belt, an actual belt. And I had to...
Oh my God. That's like what my mom wore. Oh
Totally. I'm like
goodness.
probably the same age as your mom. Like, talk about traumatizing. It is
Sure.
very, and you are getting sexualized. And then all of a sudden I started getting sexualized. So that's the other thing is, that's why we can't lump trans into this thing because a male to female is going to go through a whole different space than why I do think a lot of young girls are feeling like they're going to be better off not being sexualized. You know, there's a lot of trauma attached to these young
Of course
people.
there is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Buck, I'm not exaggerating when I say this nearly me. I mean,
I believe you.
I shut down on a level that was really profound. I have a sense memory of the gun oil from my dad's 38 when I'm like,
God.
you know, just a teenager, like sitting there trying my best to pull the trigger because I was in so much pain all the time. You know, it's like I would try to talk to people and be myself, and I would just sound like completely gay. And what that teaches you is to just shut down and not talk to anyone. So, I mean, I understand.
so sorry.
Like, well, it's not about me, and this is where I think a lot of trans women are failing because we can't let our personal trauma inform the public policy that we want, but cannot be about us relitigating our childhood so it was safe. But at the same time, like and this is the difference I have with you, I think sometimes you can talk about this in such absolutist terms, and I do want a path to remain open for those kids that were like me. At the very least, get them some mental health care, right?
Well, that's where So you're right. On some level, I'm an absolutist, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like the whole system needs to be dismantled right now, and I believe that we need to rebuild our house. And I think our house has fallen. And you know, I always say the thing I say: you cannot build your house on a false foundation; it will eventually crash. And we've built it on a false foundation. If we go back to the Benjamin way of being, then, you know, I'm not saying there isn't any child out there, but the problem for me is if I start really putting that out there, then what happens is then the other ones start to creep in. I see way too many detransitioners, and for me as an elder in this community, I'm like, no. Then for me, I'm like, nope, this is not. But that being said, I do think there has to be some intervention space for these young people. And again, your experience, we don't talk about those experiences. We don't see a lot of young male to females right now. We see almost all. So there has to be a space for the young yous. There has to be a space for the young Briannas. The last thing I want is for a child to want to off themselves or feel not. Can I ask you, what would you... Or what age were you when you started having all of these feelings?
I have no memory of not understanding it. I don't know if you saw my coming out video the other day, but I talk about my really first memory that's really strong. And it's not just, asking my mom when I was going to become a girl, but, my first really thing that I can really concretely remember is being in so much pain at 5 years old for not being a girl that I get this metal thing and I jab it in a light socket to try to kill myself because I thought God would let me be a girl in heaven. That was a really profound level of distress. And, I think what is underserved in this discussion is really talking about what a classical case of transsexualism looks like for biological boys. It looks like, complete lack of socialization. It looks like a major depressive episode. It looks like ideation. It looks like being a parent and seeing the light drain from your child's eyes every single day, which, no parent should have to see that. So it's just that there are no easy answers here. There was a study that came out the other day. I've got to go through it myself, but it is really troubling the number of detransitioners that seem to be out there. It's going through major insurance data, and it looks credible at first blush. And if we're serious about protecting trans health care, we've got to do that. One last thing I want to say. This is not talked about enough, Buck.
Okay.
And this pains me as a progressive and as a liberal and as literally a Democratic operative.
Yeah.
But we have to admit that the W path, which is the successor to the Benjamins, has been ideologically hijacked by people that are adding things to this that, as best as I can tell, there's not a scientific basis for. If you look at the difference in the SOC 7 and the SOC 8, it's got this expansion for all this non-binary stuff, encouraging surgery on minors for non-binary stuff. There's no study anyone can point to that will say surgery on non-binary minors is shown to have an increase in anything. There's just not. We know nothing about non-binary.
That's right.
And, this is the reason why membership in WPATH is plummeting. Because I don't think it's a scientific organization. If you look at the way the Benjamins worked back in 1979 when they were introduced, they're not a leftist piece of information on how to transition. It is dead centrist that gave trans women like me a path to go down with multiple steps, where one step required buy-in and work from us, and physicians and clinicians looked at it and gave us an approval, and then we went on to the next one. It socialized us slowly into a new role, and it worked. It addressed conservatives' concerns, it addressed liberals' concerns, and it was dead moderate. And that is the kind of common sense public policy. I've got a really big issue with WPATH for moving beyond. Does that match your experience?
Oh my God. I'm like, I'm telling you, majority of us me and you are in alignment on everything. Yes, because what do we want? We want to say, I'm not saying trans, I'm sitting right in front of you. Trans exists, people. Like 32 years of this. Like, come on, man. And you, how many years? 20 years of this? Come on. You and I are elders in this community. What we want is a safe space, okay? And to make sure that this person, even if it's a little person, is making the right choice for the rest of their. I always tell people this is a commitment. This isn't try it on and decide. I committed to this, and the commitment has to be showed to that young person, okay, or even the older person, that you're going to make a huge change in your life. But I don't feel so. You're right. WPATH has been hijacked. It's disgusting. It is full of complete weirdos. I believe that now people have infiltrated it, who have we have eunuchs and all this other kind of stuff. And again, eunuch is a fetish. Go over there. I worked in the fetish world. There's nothing wrong with having a fetish. Go for it. But stop equating it to people like us who were needing it as a young person. And now no one wants to give it to you as a young person because all we see is 5 million detransitioned kids with their boobs cut off. And even I'm concerned with that. And I'm like, wait a minute here. There has to be. I went through Benjamin standards as well. And look I'm solid, totally solid. Yeah.
I think it's really, this is what I think is under discussed, Buck, is medical safeguarding and standards. The trans community often talks about it like it's oppression. It's not.
Nope.
It is making sure that it does not serve trans people for cis people to get our health care. It is not in anyone's interest. Right. And it also, this is what's really under talked about, is how it gives you a path. The old school standards that you and I went through before I could get a vagina, I
Yes.
had to go have an actual job for a year. I had to go
Yes.
or be in school
Yeah.
for an entire year. And the point of that was to prove that
Mm-hmm.
I could function in society
Mm-hmm.
as a woman. And
Great.
that was a very, very smart standard to have.
Yep.
It's every single part of this. It's like the 3 months of therapy. Our younger counterparts talk about it like it's oppression. I could have talked about my transition pain for 3 years, right?
Yeah.
It was so helpful for me to develop a plan. So then
Yes.
when my parents disowned me and left me homeless, I had like a course of action and a backup strategy of how
Mm-hmm.
to deal with that. One step leads to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, I mean, you can make your own assessment, but I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm a reasonably socialized, normal woman.
Yep.
And that system helped deliver that for me. I think the reason so many of these younger kids are going haywire is they don't have a path. We tell them trans women are women. You just feel like you have gender dysphoria, and whatever you feel is fine.
Yeah.
And they don't know where to go with that. This isn't helping these kids, in my view.
Well, I agree with you again, and that's the thing. No, I'm going to sit here. We need a system. Systems are put in place for a reason, right? We have stop signs and red lights, and you can't do these things. If we didn't have red lights and stop signs, and people would just be crashing into each other. Like you have to have. We're crashing into each other right now because all of the
Yes.
safety protocols have been lifted because of disingenuous people who have entered this space, because there is nothing, and being told, I know who I am. No, you don't. You don't know who you are. Okay. So don't try to say you know who you are. And 3 months of therapy is a joke. You're just about maybe getting into that space where you can actually start to feel comfortable to talk to your therapist at 3 months, or really the stuff is coming out. They have literally destroyed a good thing. And that's the part that I have an issue with, that we need to get back to standards. Standards are there for a reason. You think anyone can just now anyone can operate. There are surgeons doing 5 top surgeries a day, Brianna.
Oh my
5.
God.
It's
That's
sick.
crazy.
It's like
When
they're
I
just,
did it, there were 3 people that could do GRS in the United States.
Yes.
So,
yes.
know,
It's like they're
it's-
ramping up. It's very
it's a
bizarre.
business,
It's a
yeah.
business, and whatever, make some money off it. I don't really care. But that being
care.
said, like, you've got to have your head around it and understand what you're doing to this person for the rest of their life. And do you know that some of these detransitioners are trying to get medical care, and there is no medical care for them?
So this is, and again, we may disagree on this. I've got no issue with detransitioners. It is not
Neither do I.
surprising to me that by dismantling medical safeguarding, that you are having some people go through all of this, which you and I both know it's traumatic, it's difficult, it's painful. I did not enjoy having my jaw taken apart 3 times, right? But at the same time, my problem with the detransitioners is it feels like they immediately go into this mission of trying to dismantle my care. And
True.
that's not right either.
No, it's not.
I think Chloe, like with respect,
Chloe
Cole is a good example of
Yeah.
this. I want a system built where Chloe
Yes.
Cole was not effed up in the first place. And
That's
I'm willing to build that with her. I'm happy to pay more taxes to help cover insurance for detransition surgery.
Great.
But when her political mission shifts
That's
to
right.
taking away my health care, Chloe, the reason this didn't work for you is because you're not trans. And the
That's
reason
right.
it worked for me is because I am trans.
That's right.
And we need to be able to see each other's humanity in this and work together and come up with a public policy that works for both of us.
But, well, again, we are in alignment, and I'm friends with Chloe, and the reason I'm friends with Chloe is because I tried to explain that to her. But that being said, she's a youngster, right? This happened to her at a very young age. She's pissed. She is pissed off. Those detransitioners, it's why I inserted myself into the detransitioner space, and why I give them a platform on here to vent with that, because I'm going to keep telling them I exist. Here I am. It
That's
didn't
right.
work for you. I'm going to let you be angry for a while, but if I don't also interject myself into this and say that should have never happened to you. Why did it happen to you, Chloe? Because of the dismantling of our space. You didn't have any therapy. She went to Planned Parenthood in 20 minutes, got testosterone, was on it. And I have to give her a little grace right now to be mad. But I also
That's fair.
I think she'll come around. I actually do. I also think my dad always said this to me when I was younger. He said, the company you keep, the people that are surrounding you, people will also judge you by that. So I don't know the people she's surrounding herself with. And they're also mad at us. They're mad at me and you. Everyone's mad at you and I because they think you and I are also part of the problem and sort of
We're
tell.
political blowback. We are, we are caught up in this
That's right.
mission that we didn't sign up for.
No, we
I
did
never
not.
wanted to attack and destroy gender. I never wanted to do that.
That's right.
I didn't even come out publicly until a couple of weeks ago, right? Just because I did not want it to be the focus of my life and career.
Excellent.
Back when I did it, the idea was just to transition, integrate as best as you could, and move on. And I have. I've been married monogamously for 16 years.
Excellent.
I'm reasonably famous, and
Yep.
I've just tried to do the best work I can. But it really, Buck, it is at a point right now where I am feeling an ethical crisis because I see the course that we're on. And all respect out there, like Marcy Bowers was my surgeon for GRS.
Oh, wow.
I like Marcy a lot. I respect her.
Sure.
But I think she's led WPATH on a path. And I think this entire movement is going on a path that is going to result in the children of tomorrow not having access like you and I had health care
right.
for. And that's not something I can just sit by and do nothing about. The adults, it's time for us to stand up and talk to these children and inform them gender dysphoria is a serious medical condition. It's not trendy. It's not cool. It is something that could kill you. And it's time to get real. And it's time to start trying to work with the public. You cannot sit there and throw a fit and tell them you've got neo-pronouns and then act like a victim when someone can't discern them psychically. We've got to get back to basics, and we've got to build a better healthcare system. And that's going to mean working with Republicans like adults and acknowledging where our movement has gone off course. If we don't do that, Buck, you and I,
that's right.
Those kids are effed.
They're toast. They're
toast.
So I have amassed a large, people will be watching this, very conservative, very female, very Republican, whatever you want to call it, fan base for a reason, because I knew I needed to build the bridge with them. And so if they acknowledge me, that means they are acknowledged transsexualism. And they're acknowledging, and I don't necessarily believe that they hate you and I. I think that they also want what you and I want. They want a safe, secure system, and they don't want to see kids being just shoved down this lane. I posed this question the other day. I said, where are all the gay kids?
Yeah.
Really, I just am like, no kid is saying they're gay. I have a 12-year-old son, and he goes to a camp, and he comes back. He's like, guess what was at the camp? And I'm like, what? He goes, all the girls were trans. This is a 12 to 14-year-old camp. I'm like, what, dude? He goes, yes, all of them were trans, and all of them identify. All. I said all, not. He said all. I meant all of them identified as he, it.
Wow.
And I'm like, there is something wrong. It really is a female thing happening. It really is. I feel it. It's something is not right. It's off.
Well, Buck, I can tell you, I mean, unlike you, no one needed to tell me that I wanted to be a girl. I knew it as much as I wanted to breathe. I didn't need a book to tell me that. I didn't need a public school to tell me that.
Yeah.
What I did need was when I started having breakdowns at school, I needed a system that would look more into that and could have gotten me the help that I needed and kind of pushed my parents to stop ignoring that. But I didn't need curriculum to inculcate children into thinking they're xenopronouns. That's not the public policy that I needed. So I think that it's really disconcerting to me because we don't know what happens developmentally to these girls if they grow up. Like socially transitioning people is not innocuous. You and I both know it
That's
has
right.
major effects on your psyche.
Yes.
So I think considering the fact that this non-binary stuff is very understudied,
Mm-hmm.
I personally, if you tell me you're non-binary and you're an adult, I
Mm-hmm.
will call you by whatever makes you most comfortable because I'm
Totally.
not a jerk. But as a matter of public policy,
Mm-hmm.
the evidence is so unbelievably weak
Mm-hmm.
that affirming the stuff in children
Mm-hmm.
has good psychological benefits.
That's right.
I think I want to pour NIH money into this,
Great.
figure out what's going on. That
Great.
seems like the most reasonable course of action.
No, I totally agree with you. And, I
Yeah,
think as elders in this community, we also have to look at social media and social
yeah,
spaces, and they have
yeah.
changed since when you and I, and we
Oh my
know
God.
kids are easily, I was influenced into doing things as a young person. We know it's very easy to influence a young person. So if all the kids are trans, it makes you feel happy to be trans because you're getting accolades and you're getting, so I think you're right. We need studies and we need to see why is it mostly young girls
Yeah.
doing this? There's some reason why. I
So
don't.
I want to ask you a really honest question. I
Yeah.
think my sisters are going to get angry at me about this, but you brought up, like phalloplasty, which I agree for you is not a good
Yeah.
surgery.
Hmm.
One of the things that I wouldn't say it disturbs me because I think people can make up their own mind about what to do with their gender dysphoria,
Hmm.
but it is surprising to me. And I don't understand why so many supposed trans girls today
Hmm.
are A, not into men. That's
Mm.
really weird to me. Those numbers
Yeah.
have super shifted.
True.
And two, why so few of them seem to be interested in getting GRS? Because one of the few
Mm.
advantages we have is like it's an excellent surgery.
It is.
Yeah, I have a
It is.
vagina, it's totally normal.
Yep.
Don't have to think about it. It's just, it's great. And I
Yep.
can go have a normal marriage. It's, in, well, it is concerning to me that like I had to go save up $25,000
Yeah.
to get that done. It's basically free for these girls and they still don't want it. And I think like I want to know an answer about what is changing for why this population like doesn't want a vagina and doesn't date men. That seems really
Well, you
interesting
just
to
said
me.
a population. So I
Yeah.
will, in my opinion, and
Yes.
again, coming from someone who's been around women like you for a very long time, and all
Hmm.
of you did what you did, pretty much. Um, I believe these aren't actual transsexual women. I believe they're more fetishists, and I
Yeah.
believe because I talk to a lot of women as well. They call them trans widows now. I guess
Yeah.
they're women whose husband after 30 years decided that they were trans, but
Yeah.
they all have a very similar story. It became more of a sexual thing with them, and they became very sexual with their wives, and they became very sex. And I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. That feels so cross-dressery and
Yeah.
fetishy to me. So in my opinion, of course I don't know, and from my stance of where I've been in this community, you are different. You are really coming to it with a very dysphoric. These people haven't even been diagnosed with gender dysphoria because now you can just self ID, and it's more fetishy to me. And they want it becomes this more fetish. That's why they're not getting rid of their penises. It's
Yeah.
literally why they're not getting rid of them.
I think I'm going to disagree with you just in the sense I don't
Okay,
know where you fall on Blanchardism. I definitely believe in Blanchardism. I think
sure,
there's some truth here.
sure.
But I don't subscribe to this idea that just because you're autosexual
Hmm.
or autogynephilic, whichever way you want to say that,
Sure.
that you can't genuinely have dysphoria in transition.
Oh, I think you
Actually,
can.
some of my closest friends have done that, and they're
Sure.
normal, well socialized women. They had to get over a very sexualized idea of womanhood
There you go.
to get there, but they did, right?
That's
And
right.
I almost want to tell those girls, like, you've got a tough road ahead of you. Like, some
Yeah,
of this behavior is not going to come as normally for you. You need to take it seriously.
that's
You
right.
need to understand this sexualization is
Yes.
going to inhibit your ability to integrate. Um,
Yes.
but I also just think flat out some of these people are crossies, a non-trivial
To
number of
me,
them.
and
Yeah.
also I want to say, I do think some of them could have dysphoria. The problem for me is nobody's going to therapy.
Right.
Nobody's going to therapy. Like, this is a mental place. You've got to start here before you start here. And then it literally helps you to find that space where we're not even giving anybody mental health care. We're just
That's
like,
right.
it's so bizarre. So I do see, but maybe that cross-dresser is dealing with some dysphoria and they don't understand it. And you're right. And then this idea of being a woman is a very sexualized space. And then women are getting pissed off about it. I mean, I can see the clash. I'm just like, oh, this is like all out war. Who's more of a woman? And it's just, but I'm telling you, I've spoken to some of these trans widows, and the stories are. It's quite some of. It's some of it's sad for everyone involved.
Of course
not
it
just,
is.
It's sad.
Have you seen how callously trans Twitter tends to talk about this? Like, Buck, I've been married 16 years. I know my husband well enough. Like, he's not trans.
Yeah.
But if he left me tomorrow to transition, that would, I mean, it would completely break me.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? So it bothers me just how callously, this is talked about.
It's horrible.
It's like, something that was really true for you and I was we used to just be very free in telling those borderline cases.
Yes.
If you don't have to transition, don't. If you can get by with just being a crossie, do that. Just do what you got to do, but don't leave your wife and kids, right?
Yes.
And I think something has changed where there's a message that if you don't transition, you're going to die. And I don't think that's always true.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. We know people have lived with gender dysphoria and not transitioned for many, many years. I lived with it for a long time until I got into a space that my therapist didn't just let me transition. I had to go through years and years of her saying, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, well, I'll see you next week. It wasn't just like, here you go, here's some testosterone. And I know sometimes I just sound like an old tranny, but I really care. I care about you. I care about your sisters. I care about the young people. I care about not losing this space. I care. I'm pretty done. I have everything I need. I'm transitioned. I can walk away from this in a heartbeat and enjoy my life. But because I feel very grateful for what I have been given, and I feel very, very happy to be this person, I want everyone else who needs to have this to have what I have. And it's why I seem so harsh, because I don't believe they're getting what I got. I believe they're getting a short end of the stick, if that makes sense. And I think they're being duped into something that we have to be more serious. And shame on some of these doctors, Brianna. Shame on them. Yeah.
Well, I think they're well-meaning. But I think they are not serving people ultimately. I do want to give you a little bit of pushback sometimes. Like yesterday you tweeted that you thought gender critical was you thought there was a normal way to think. And look, you and I have the same assessment about trans Twitter.
Yeah. It's crazy.
They're crazy. We agree. They're clinically dealing with their neurosis. They're putting it outwards and it's not helping things. Yeah. But I mean, Buck, the turf side of it is,
I know, they're
just
gnarly.
As toxic.
Totally. Right? They hate me. They actually hate me. They're not.
Well, why would you say gender critical?
I don't like the term.
Then?
I think maybe it's being misread. I think I said I don't understand this term gender critical. I hate it. I hate the term gender critical.
Oh, I do too.
Because we need to say male and female. Biology. Biology matters to me. I am a biological female. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be this person. And this idea that we need to get... So the TERFs and everyone else picked up this language, gender critical. So I think what I meant to say, if it came out wrong, was that why can't we just go back to the old way of thinking? It's not gender critical. It sounds so... it's rubbing everybody in this wrong way. We need to find some fucking nuance, people.
I agree.
And we need to have a conversation. And I think Brianna and I are willing to. So again, what I mean by that is, can we just get back to saying biology matters, especially in transition?
Of course biology matters. Buck, you've got kids. Do you know how jealous I am of that? Do you think it's fun for me to be a 40-something woman that cannot have children, of course it's miserable.
Well,
Like,
I didn't have the
you know,
child. I actually adopted this child, and I
well,
also
I
am
mean,
adopting another child
oh, that's so
because
good for
my
you.
doctor, they didn't give me the 32 years ago. Do you think they said to me, "You want to save your eggs"? They did not say that to me, and I didn't
Fair
even
enough.
think about doing any of that. And I
No,
got sick
same.
from the testosterone because they didn't
Oh my
know. I
goodness.
almost died because
I
they
didn't know that.
yeah, I almost died because my uterus and my cervix fused together. I'm like one of the very like
Oh
first recorded
no.
cases of long-term testosterone on a female. This is why biology matters. And they're like, dude, if you didn't come to the hospital 5 more minutes, you'd be dead because I got septic from
Oh
it,
my
and it literally
God, fuck.
destroyed me. It was horrifying. And now all these young kids are like, Trampa, I have these cramps. I'm like, you're atrophied. You got to go to the doctor and have a hysterectomy,
Yeah.
but no one's telling you that.
Yeah.
So that being
Oh, I
said,
didn't
yeah,
know that.
I adopted kids,
Yeah.
and that has been amazing for me.
Well, all of this is to say, like, I agree with you that biology matters. I have no issue with you saying, like, I'm a biological man. I am. But I think, like, we were talking on Twitter about this the other day. As best as I can tell, when I go about my day,
Yeah.
society treats me as a woman.
Yep.
And I think like being a woman means a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
I think it can mean biology, and certainly I do not meet that standard. Though I think like transitioning is almost like a medically induced intersex state, right? Like,
Sure.
they've done things to change my endocrinology system, my face, my body parts, all of that. It's just a copy, but it's getting me, like, I look closer to female than I do to male at this point.
Yeah.
But I think there's also like a social role, how society treats you.
Yes.
Are you being gendered correctly? Who are the friends that you make? If it's a Thanksgiving dinner, are you going to go help wash the dishes, right? And I think
I am.
that's another definition of being a woman. And I think like I feel like that's not acknowledged sometimes
Yeah.
in the discussion. Does that make sense to you?
100% roles because look at me. I mean, I
Sure.
would say I'm hyper masculine, and that was always,
Yeah.
I totally got into this societal way of stereotypes. I'm totally a stereotypical, like, yeah, I want to be a man. I went
Yeah.
full force, Tom of Finland man. So, and you went straight up lady. So I do think that, but the problem is, again, I'm going to keep telling you, Brianna, you and I, as far as I know, I'm not going to speak for you, but I transitioned to live my life as a man. I did not transition to be
100%.
trans. And that's the
100%.
problem now. Trans is an identity choice.
100%.
Well, what the hell's going on here? Like, we didn't want people. We want to walk down the street and nobody ever knows. And that's when women would respect you. I bet you, prior to all this bullshit that's going on right now, you walked into rooms, women were like so cool with you. No one even
Of course.
cared. And
It didn't come up.
That's right. And that's what I'm trying to get us back to, because now we have these disingenuous people who are calling themselves trans women, and they are saying such insane things to women. I'm like,
Of course.
what? Why would you say, why would you, it's really causing, we have to get them out of our community. That's all I'm saying. We just need to get them out of here.
I think we have to build a new community, and I think the queers need to go in one place, and this is why I want to say transsexual again.
That's right.
I've got a project that's going to be coming up.
Great.
And I'm actually going to ask you to be part of this.
Oh,
but
awesome.
I really do think, and my focus is more on my sisters. Like, it just
Great.
is. No offense, Buck. I don't know enough.
I'll be your
about
brother.
Your
It's all
pathology.
good.
You can be my brother, 100%. But what I really think trans women need is, I think they're not being shown a path to success.
Excellent.
And,
Excellent.
And I think that we need models out there that if you want to transition and be successful, here's what you need to do, right? X, Y, Z. You need to dress. You need to look for women your age, and you need to take some clues on what is appropriate to wear. And, you need to figure out your personality. And, like, there's just all these things to do.
Yeah.
I don't think we're teaching trans women how to be women anymore.
I agree. I
So that's
agree.
just my view.
Oh no, I love it. That's called mentorship, and that's called
Yeah,
being a very, very, very awesome elder and
yeah,
understand. Look at what worked for me. Let me.
that's
I,
right.
I'm an elder to the young generation. People don't understand that. I've amassed a lot of young trans men who really do look up to me and say,
Oh,
I just want to be a guy, and I can't stand all this TikTok nonsense. And I'm like, dude, just don't pay attention to it. Get a career, move forward in your
yeah,
life. Like, you're going to be Tommy. You're not going to be the trans Tommy. Like, I encourage all these young kids to go to school, get a career, go to be a mechanic, do whatever, because eventually all this shit's going to go away. And then what? You're going to be standing
yeah.
here like going, what did I do?
You better fill your life with something. And I wish I could
That's
tell
right.
these girls to have a really sexualized idea of womanhood. Like, just wait till you're 40, okay? Like, don't get me wrong, I love to dress up and I like to look as pretty as I can. But
Yeah.
gendered experience for me at 40
Yeah.
is going to Starbucks with a bunch of mom friends and hearing them talk about their kids for 30 minutes. Not going up to the club in garters and lingerie, because that would be really sad if that was what I was doing. So you better be willing to sign up for all of this, y'all.
Right on. No, that's, I think, going to really steer it towards a more respectful space. And people see you don't just want to transition to be a sexy lingerie
No,
model. You want to,
no.
transition to get back into the world where you're happy. You're happy. You've created a huge career for yourself. You're married for 16 years. That, to me, is what I want the world to see.
Of
You are what I
course.
want the world to see. This is transsexualism. And
Of
the shame,
course.
the part that hurts me is you did suffer as a young person. And
Yeah.
we can't have kids suffer. I'm not saying that ever, but we've got to get to a space where it's not on TikTok and everyone's talking about their trans kid and trans kids, trans kids, trans kids. And, it's really made people freaked out
Yeah.
because it does look creepy. Once you add kids into the mix of anything, you've now crossed boundaries with people.
It was a real mistake for the trans women to have a really sexual bent
Yeah.
in our public presentation at the same time that minors transitioning became
Yes.
a much more popular thing. And again, Buck, like I don't know what these girls are like today, but when I think about the experiences that really make my soul sing, that just where I feel so in touch with myself, it is just sitting around with two girlfriends, like giggling and telling
Yeah.
stories and
Totally.
just communicating in a way that I desperately wanted to do as a child and I
Yeah.
couldn't. That is what that is when I feel the most alive and I feel happiest. That's when I feel
Beautiful.
the most like myself. You know, you see a lot of these girls on Twitter like posting their penis constantly in lingerie, and it's just I I'm just I'm really dismayed because I think they're missing out on the stuff that's actually really important, if that makes sense.
Well, they're only doing that because they have a platform now to do it. They
Yeah,
didn't do that before, and so that's the problem. They're doing a disservice to you on some level, and why I
yeah.
think creating a project to bring it back to, come on, let's get some
It's like trans
understanding.
women cool again and
Of
normal.
course. Oh my God. I'm telling you, I miss that too. I miss hanging out and like all the great trans women friends I have. They're all hiding now. All my trans women friends are hiding. They secretly type to me all the time, go, but go, but. They're all hiding underneath. They're like, I want nothing to do with this.
So I have a question for you, and this is this is asking for a frank assessment. But
Sure.
I've gotten to know a lot of trans men,
Great.
and over the last few years, and I hope I can offer a similarly frank assessment. I'm not
Yes.
saying this to hurt anyone or demean anyone, but when I think about men, when I think about what is attractive about my husband that makes me drawn to his male energy, it is a certain amount of emotional centeredness and
Great.
stability.
Great.
Um, and what I see a lot of with these trans men, I don't have a PC way to put this, so I
No,
apologize.
you're on
But
my channel.
I see them acting like women, to be really honest with you. Um, just very dysregulated,
Yeah.
very leaning into drama, starting
Yep.
fights.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not saying like everyone needs to be a stoic man,
No,
but I don't think they're socializing well. Does
because
that
they're
make sense to
trans
you?
mask. They're
Yeah,
trans
I don't know what that
mask.
means.
What that means is I'm a butch lesbian, but I don't want to call myself a butch lesbian. I'm trans mass. No, I say it all the
Oh,
time. I like, look, don't appropriate my disorder and stop
yeah,
putting trans in it. You could be mask, you could be masculine, you could be a boy, butch, whatever else you want to
of
call
course.
yourself, but you're not trans. But they're also the ones who don't want to take the all, what did I say earlier? A commitment. It's why I keep saying to people, this is a commitment for a
Of course it
life.
is.
There's very, you won't really be able to make a U-turn. Sorry.
No,
So I agree with you on some level, and it's why I also get myself into hot water with them. But I'm the, you know me, I speak my mind. I'm not scared of anybody, and I don't care if you like my opinion. But
so how can we teach some of these trans men how to be men? Because we can't even get cis men to become men nowadays.
well, I think first off, what we need to teach them is maybe they're not trans, and then
Yeah,
maybe we say it's okay to be a butch female.
of
And
course
I
it
think we've lost a
is.
generation of butch females. A lot of older butches are transitioning now. Let me just tell you, when I transitioned a million years ago, I remember all these butch lesbians, and they were
Of
mad
course.
at me. They were mad. They were like, "You're a traitor." You know, I'm like, okay, whatever. I lost all my friends, and then
Oh, bug.
fast forward 30 years later, when it's cool on TikTok, they're all like, I'm transitioning now. And I'm like, what? How did, because there's something going on in the zeitgeist. So those are the ones who I don't believe really want to take on all that, right? And then also toxic masculinity became a thing. I don't want to be like Buck. He's toxic.
Yeah.
They consider me a toxic man. And I'm like, do you know how sensitive I am? I cry at everything. First off, I'm like probably one of the most
Oh.
sensitive men out there.
I think this is a quality that trans men have at their best. Like, if I wrote a list of what I really love about trans men, is I think y'all missed a state of a socialization that I really unfortunately went through that
Yes.
teaches you to kill your emotions.
Yes.
And yeah, I had to work
Yes.
very hard to unlearn that. And I
That's
think,
right.
like, I hope as you're talking to me today, you can see I kind of lead with my heart.
Yes, I
Something I
do.
really love about trans men is they don't feel constrained
That's right.
by a lot of that stuff. And I like when I talk to you, I sense someone that's very loving and empathetic,
Thank
and
you. Thank you.
it's a really rich way to interpret manhood. And I
Yeah.
think there's value there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I personally think, like, I don't know how you think, but I think trans women, I don't think we're entirely women. That may be an unpopular opinion. I think we are something different. And honestly, though, at our best, very sexy, very
Yes.
cool, very
Yes.
interesting. I think it is extremely beautiful to have a biological man that was so
Yes.
attracted to femininity that they killed those parts of themselves
Great.
and became like a very classy woman. I think there's
Yes.
real beauty in that. So I wish we could be more honest about those parts of ourselves, if that makes sense to
That's all
you.
anybody's asking, by the way. That's all even women are asking. Like, you're a different type, okay? You're a
Of course I
trans
am.
woman.
Of
And
course I
that's the
am.
thing is decide, I'm a woman forcing me. No, no, actually, you're not. And it's okay that you're not. You're this kind of
Of
woman. And
course.
why can't that, the woman word can be shared. It actually can. But it
Of
needs to be
course.
different than that kind of woman. And once that, it used to be that way. My God, I can tell you so many women that tell me, I used to have so many trans friends and now I hate them all. I'm like,
Oh no.
I know, because that's what happens when you
I'll be your
force
trans
people.
friend. Reach
There
out
you
to me.
go. I
There we
bet you're
go.
going to amass a shit ton. But that from this channel. But that being said, that has been the issue is you can't take people's space. I believe in
No.
sharing. I said we don't have to walk on the same side of the street, me and you. We can have the street. You can walk on that side, I can walk on this side. We can wave to each other and it's all good. But we've got to start learning how to get back to sharing because I'm not going away and neither are you. That's one thing people need to understand. We're not
Of
going anywhere.
course. But
Yeah,
this is the fundamental problem with this kind of activism is our friends, our younger friends, Buck, they don't want to coexist. They want
they
to
don't.
conquer. They want to tell everyone I am a woman, period,
Excellent.
even if
Yep.
I don't shave or make any effort to
God.
appear as one. And they want to they just want I wish I had a better way to say this. They want the conservatives with questions to die and go away.
I know.
It's
I
not
know.
the way democracy works.
Nope.
What I need is conservatives to give me a little bit.
That's right.
I need a little compromise from you.
That's right.
Understand I'm your fellow citizen. I'm trying to make a life for myself, and yep. I am on your side. I want our country to win, and I am invested in treating you with dignity, and I need that back.
That's right.
And there's no way that the trans movement is ever going to make any progress without that mindset. It worked for 40 years.
Oh my God, that's all people need to hear out there in our community. We need to get this into the ear of our community. They dislike people like you and me because we're willing to build a bridge with the haters. And when they say stuff like that, like kill all TERFs and kill people, and
it's terrible.
And like when Trump gets shot at twice and everyone's like he brought it on himself, I'm like that is actually gross. I don't care what.
It is.
I mean, what? This is our country, people. We're supposed to be, whether you like that person or not, I don't really care. But you cannot wish somebody to die. Like, that is so over the top.
It's anti-American.
It literally is. Yeah. It literally is. It's why I never tell people who I'm voting for. I never it's my personal private space, but I believe in both candidates, and I believe that we should have those. I also believe we should have more candidates. We should have more parties.
Oh boy, don't get me started.
We should have a political talk next because
we really should.
We really should because that's your space. It's not mine. I'm just an average tranny who's trying to make shit happen.
Well, I'm more interested in foreign policy,
that's so important. Are you kidding me? Foreign policy is one of the most important things. I don't think the younger generation even understands foreign policy.
They don't.
They do not.
It's a whole other discussion. But I think this is, and there are just two things I want to say before we go away. Like for all the young trans kids out there, I really encourage you. It's a big world. Do not make being trans your entire identity. It's not going to take you anywhere good. Look at my career. I'm a famous video game developer, famous political candidate. I'm known for my views on feminism. I am known for, for the GamerGate thing and fair treatment of women in the video game space. Harassment policy online. Like, I am known for a lot of different things, and only recently openly talking about being trans. Do not just fill your life with the hardest thing you're ever going to go through. Right. It is not going to lead you to happiness, in my view.
Oh my God, we need you so bad. I'm not kidding. Like, they need to hear that from you. They actually need, because the conversation is trans women. The conversation isn't necessarily trans men. And so I think you being an elder and being in the gaming space, that is massive. And no, I'm really not kidding. I'm around the kids and I watch what's happening with the games and all of that. They're very influenced by a lot of that. Then why did they it's horrible that they made their identity trans. It's going to go away and then they're going to be having nothing. And like, it's okay if you're trans, but make that over here. And let's make you a badass. Let's make you a badass person who's going to grow up to be something, not be so angry at the world because trans rights are human rights. Does that even need to be said?
It's important to have access to HRT, but that's not the only. If that's all you care about, you failed. And frankly, making this your identity, I don't understand it. All I ever wanted to do was transition and forget it and move on with my life as best as I could, right? Yeah. So I think that's where I really want to close, because I do know you have a more conservative audience. And can I just say a word or two for them out there?
Of course.
I understand that y'all probably have questions about people like me. And, for me as a child growing up, all I wanted to do was play with Barbies. I started getting crushes on boys at a very young age. And I know sometimes you're like, couldn't you have been an effeminate man? Well, I tried that. It doesn't work for me. It's something much deeper. It's something that fundamentally is not going to change. I would really ask you, look at my life. Before anyone knew I was trans, I was really famous for standing up in the video game industry for women to get a fair shot at being employed and being promoted the same way that men got to get promoted. I've put a lot on the line for women's rights over my career. And, you know, as far as like me being a threat to you in the bathroom, I've been married to a dude for a long time. I'm not into you. I'm sorry. You're probably gorgeous, just not my thing. So, like, I feel like there is this set of stereotypes out there about us that it's just not true. And I guess all I'm asking for you to do today is to see my humanity. If you want me to see yours, reach out to me and I'll be happy to hear your story too.
Oh, I just love you. I swear, I have a tear in my eye. No, because I think that the women, first off, will appreciate you saying that. And secondly, I think that when you reach your arms across the aisle, even though they're hate, it says a lot about you as a person who really does want to build that bridge back that's been cracked. And so people really hear what she said. And I know her. She's really meaning that from her heart. It's not BS. And for us to be able to live in this world together, we do have to coexist. And that's just got to be on our plates. And we've got to come back to that space of being. And I don't think Brianna wants to take your space. She wants to sit at the table with you, which is a completely different environment.
We can work together, and I can be a powerful ally for you. Right. If you're worried about predators, I'm worried about predators too. This story in California about this degenerate freak show that decided he was a woman when he had a fetish, a clinical fetish for showing people his penis.
Wow.
And changed his gender and went into a locker room and started waving that thing around. I want to work with you to get that person out of women's spaces. Now, I will push back on the trans crazies. I will work with you on that. And I can be a powerful public policy ally. But for us to do that work together, I need you to see my humanity, and I need you to understand there's some trans women out there that legitimately have a medical condition and are trying to coexist with you. And that's what I want to build together.
Oh, excellent. That's a perfect note to move on. No, it is. It's just everything I love about you. And so thank you, Brianna, for really sitting with me today and, you know, having a different opinion. But I don't think we kind of do. But I think we're literally in alignment. But, you know, just taking the time with me means a lot to me. You're a big shot. And so I think people will really love you and want to hear this. And the more we have these conversations, I think the more we're going to be able to push the disingenuous people out and bring back a sense of, you know, normalcy and get back to a great America. Let's get back to America. I want to go back to living my life and not every tranny.
Oh God, it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
So exhausting.
We'll do this again, Buck. This is
Let's do it again. I love you so much. And thank you everybody for watching. Leave the beautiful comments that you always do. It means so much to me. And like this, send it to people who need to see it. And then I'll see you guys all on Wednesday on the live.